Paul, by the way, doesn't say that Jesus is equal with God of Israel.
Well, he calls him Yahweh. So
He is definitely not Yahweh or any author of the New Testament. Yahweh and Jesus are different beings in the New Testament.
what's the latter half of the Philippians poem say?
He's honored. He's put at a position with Yahweh. That doesn't make him Yahweh. He is definitely not Yahweh.
Okay, so Romans 10, when he says, whoever calls on the name of the Lord, what's Paul quoting in Romans 10? What's Paul quoting?
Paul thought Jesus was the Lord, yes.
And the Lord is...
Look, if you think that Jesus was Yahweh, you've committed the heresy called Sabellianism.
No.
Which was a 3rd century heresy that said that Jesus and Yahweh were the same being. It was condemned as a heresy in early Christianity, and it continues to be condemned by heresy by every Orthodox Christian on the planet.
No, the reason why it's not heresy is because Elohim, Jesus is not presented as Elohim until he the book of Hebrews. But Jesus, whenever an Old Testament is being quoted, a verse in the Old Testament is being quoted that has Yahweh in the text, it applies to Jesus.
Because God has given him the name above every name.
Okay, so
God has given him a position equal with himself, but he hasn't made him into Yahweh. Yahweh and Christ cannot be the same being in any theological understanding of the New Testament or later theological developments. They are distinct beings. That's the whole point of the Trinity. They're not the same.
No, I think you're misunderstanding how the New Testament writers are using the Old Testament text. See, they're looking at, when they looked at Yahweh from the Old Testament, they were seeing the pre-existent Christ.
No,
Jesus. Yes.
no, they were seeing the angel of the Lord. The angel of the Lord, look.
No, that's what 1 Corinthians 8:6 is all about. It is the Shema. In the Shema, what is that?
Okay, quote 8:6 for me.
Say it.
Quote 1 Corinthians 8:6 for me.
There is but one God, the Father.
There's God the Father. And
there's one Lord.
There's one Lord.
Yeah. And what's that? Is that the Shema? Is
And
the Shema?
it's not that they are the same, it's there's two of them.
Two verses before that, Paul said, there is for us but one God.
And one Lord.
No. In chapter 8, verse 4, he says...
All right, look, if you want to say that Jesus is Yahweh, that's fine. I'm just telling you it was condemned as an early heresy.
That's what Paul says. But
Paul does not say that Jesus is Yahweh.
Romans 10:13, he says, whoever calls on the name of the Lord, and he's clearly talking about Jesus. That's quoting Joel 2:32. In Joel, it is Yahweh who's they're saying, call on the name of the Lord.
You show me a place where Paul says Jesus is Yahweh.
Well, okay. But we can...
My basic case in my book, How Jesus Became God, and that I presented last night, is as follows. I don't think that Jesus himself called himself God during his public ministry. I personally don't think Jesus imagined he was God. He wasn't God. He was God's prophet.